Ladies, listen up. This message is for every woman who's ever been told she's too much, too loud, too strong, too independent, too emotional. You spent too long apologizing for who you are. But what if I told you it's time to stop shrinking and start standing? It's time to stop explaining and start owning. This one's for her. The version of you that's been buried under expectations. This one's called unapologeticallyher. Let's talk. Step 1, owning her identity. She knows exactly who she is and, more importantly, who she's not. She doesn't wear masks to be liked. She doesn't shape shift to fit into a world that was never built to hold the fullness of her. See, there was a time when she doubted herself, when she second-guessed every move, every word, every outfit, every decision, because the world told her she needed to tone it down, be more polite, more quiet, more agreeable. And for a while she tried. She tried to dim her light so others wouldn't feel blinded. She tried to be less so people would stay comfortable. But that version of her, that wasn't living, it was surviving. Then came the shift, a moment, a spark, a breakdown that led to a breakthrough. And she finally realized she didn't come here to be a copy. She came here to be an original. She stopped running from her fire and started owning it. She stopped apologizing for her emotions, her ambition, her voice, her body, her past, her dreams. She learned that her identity isn't something to hide, it's something to hold fiercely. She began to walk different, talk different, think different. Not because she was trying to be someone else, but because she finally stepped into herself. She no longer asked for permission to be herself. She doesn't shrink when someone calls her too confident, too emotional, too ambitious. Because what they call too much is exactly what makes her powerful. She doesn't need labels to feel seen. She doesn't need validation to feel worthy. She's not waiting for someone to define her anymore. She defines herself. Every day, every choice, every time she says yes to what aligns and no to what doesn't. She's not chasing identity in people, in trends, in titles. She carries it within. It's in how she moves, how she loves, how she leads, how she stands up after falling again and again. Step 2, walking in confidence, not approval. She walks into every room like she owns her space, not because someone told her she could, but because she decided she doesn't need anyone's permission to exist boldly. Her confidence isn't loud or arrogant, it's rooted, unshakable, and real. It's in the way she holds her posture, the calm in her voice, the certainty in her decisions. She's not performing. She's not faking it to impress anyone. She's not here to be liked. She's here to be respected, even if that respect only comes from herself. There was a time she used to live for approval. She'd replay conversations in her head, wondering if she said too much, if she came off the wrong way, if she should have smiled more or spoken less. She was constantly editing herself in real time, making herself smaller so others wouldn't feel threatened by her presence. She was taught that approval meant safety, that if people liked her, she belonged. But approval is a shaky foundation. It changes with moods, opinions, and insecurity. And she got tired of trying to keep up. So she let go of that weight. She started walking for herself, not the applause. She realized that the only yes she truly needed was her own. That confidence isn't about proving anything to anyone. It's about not needing to. Now she walks with a quiet power. She makes choices based on what feels right in her gut, not what looks good to the crowd. She's not swayed by the noise, by the criticism, by the judgment that comes from people who haven't even taken the time to know her. She's done explaining herself to those committed to misunderstanding her. People might say she's intimidating. That's okay. Confidence will always feel threatening to those who rely on approval to validate their worth. But she's not asking for claps anymore. She's not chasing compliments or waiting to be noticed. She notices herself. She builds herself up in silence, celebrates her own wins, and moves forward whether anyone's watching or not. Confidence for her isn't in being flawless, it's in showing up as she is, flaws and all, and knowing that's more than enough. She trusts herself now. She trusts her journey, her voice, her decisions, her timing. Step 3, saying no without guilt. She used to feel bad every time she said no, like somehow her boundaries were a burden, like she owed people her time, her energy, her yes, even when it came at the cost of her peace. She was taught to be agreeable, to avoid conflict, to keep the harmony, even if it meant betraying herself. So she said yes to things she didn't want to do, showed up to places she didn't belong, stayed in conversations that drained her, all because she was afraid of being seen as rude, difficult, selfish. But with every forced yes, a little piece of her was chipped away. Then she got tired of stretching herself thin for people who never noticed, tired of prioritizing everyone else while she barely had anything left for herself. That's when she started to learn the power of no. Not the polite, sugar-coated kind wrapped in apologies and excuses, but the firm, clear kind. The kind of no that respects her time, honors her energy, and doesn't come with guilt or explanation. She realized that no is not rejection, it's protection. It's how she guards her peace, her goals, her space. Now, when something doesn't align with her spirit, she says no without hesitation. No to invitations that feel like obligations. No to people who only show up when they need something. No to the guilt trips, the pressure, the expectation that she should always be available. Her no isn't cruel, it's sacred. It comes from a place of deep self-respect. She knows that every time she says no to what drains her, she's saying yes to what fills her. She doesn't flinch anymore when people get uncomfortable with her boundaries. That discomfort, not her responsibility. She's not here to make everyone happy. She's here to stay true to herself. And staying true means drawing lines, not circles. She's learned that guilt is not a sign she's done something wrong. It's just a sign she's doing something different, something healthier, something bolder. She doesn't second guess herself like she used to. She doesn't over-explain, over-apologize, or overcompensate. Her no is solid, not shaky. It's delivered with grace, not guilt. To choose herself daily, every single day, she wakes up and makes a decision, sometimes loud, sometimes silent, but always intentional to choose herself. Not just when it's easy, not just when she's rested, inspired, or in a good mood. She chooses herself even on the hard days, the tired days, the doubting days. She's learned that choosing herself isn't a one-time act. It's a daily practice, a muscle that gets stronger every time she says, I matter too. There was a time when she put herself last. She gave everyone else the best of her and left herself with the scraps. Her worth was tied to what she could do for others. She thought love meant sacrifice, even if it meant sacrificing her own needs. But all that did was leave her empty, resentful, and exhausted. It took her breaking down to realize that pouring from an empty cup isn't strength, it's self-neglect. So she started flipping the script. She stopped waiting for someone to show up for her and started showing up for herself. Now she chooses herself in the big moments and the small ones. She chooses herself when she sets a boundary that others don't like. She chooses herself when she rests instead of overworking. She chooses herself when she says yes to a dream no one else believes in. She chooses herself when she walks away from chaos, even if it means walking alone. It's not always glamorous. Sometimes it means saying no to old habits, old patterns, and old versions of herself that felt safe but steady. She doesn't apologize for putting herself first anymore. She understands that when she's full, she has more to give. When she's centered, she can lead. When she's aligned, she can rise. So she chooses herself daily, not out of ego, but out of survival, out of self-respect, out of the deep knowing that no one can take better care of her soul than she can. Step 5, turning pain into power. She's been through things she doesn't always talk about, the kind of pain that changes you, not just how you see the world, but how you see yourself. She's faced heartbreak that cracked her open, betrayal that left her questioning her worth, losses that nearly made her give up. She's cried in silence, smiled through the ache, and kept moving when her legs were shaking. But here's the thing, she never stayed broken. She never let the pain define her. She felt it fully, sat with it, held it close, and then she got up and did something with it. Her pain didn't make her bitter. It made her brave. It carved out strength in her that comfort never could. Where most people would have folded, she found fire. She took every scar and turned it into armor. Every wound became wisdom. She stopped asking, why me, and started saying, watch me. That shift, that's where her power was born. not from pretending everything was okay, but from owning the truth of what she'd been through and refusing to let it silence her. She started using her voice where she used to stay quiet. She started setting boundaries where she used to let things slide. She started walking taller, speaking louder, and dreaming bigger. Not because the pain disappeared, but because she stopped hiding from it. She doesn't carry shame anymore. She carries lessons. She doesn't wear the past like a weight. She wears it like proof that she's unbreakable. And the most powerful thing, she now reaches back and helps others rise. Because she knows what it's like to feel alone in the dark. She knows what it's like to scream into a pillow and still have to show up the next morning like nothing's wrong. But now she walks with purpose. Not in spite of the pain, but because of it. Pain didn't crush her. It shaped her. It stripped away everything fake and left behind something real, raw, and unstoppable. Step 6, living bold, not perfect. She stopped chasing perfection the moment she realized it was never the goal, it was a trap. A moving target designed to keep her stuck, silent, and second-guessing herself. Perfection told her to be polished, flawless, and always in control. It told her to hide the mess, suppress the tears, filter the truth. And for a long time she tried. She tried to keep everything looking right on the outside, even when it was falling apart on the inside. She smiled when she wanted to scream. She held it together when all she wanted was to break. But that version of her was a performance, and it was exhausting. One day she got tired of pretending, tired of editing herself to make others comfortable, tired of acting like she had all the answers. So she gave herself permission to be real. And in that moment she stepped into boldness, not the kind that's loud for attention, but the kind that's fearless in truth. She started showing up as she is, not who she thought she should be. She started making choices that felt aligned, even if they weren't popular. She began speaking up, not just when it was easy, but when it mattered most. Living bold meant risking judgment. It meant not being liked by everyone. It meant being misunderstood, underestimated, and sometimes even criticized. But she realized boldness was never about being liked. It was about being free. Free to live fully. Free to feel deeply. Free to take risks, make mistakes, and still hold her head high. She doesn't need every step to be perfect. She just needs it to be hers. She takes up space now. She laughs loudly, cries openly, loves deeply, and dreams wildly. She doesn't need to have it all figured out. She just needs the courage to keep going. She wears her imperfections like stories, not secrets. She doesn't erase the chapters she's not proud of. She learns from them. She embraces the mess, the growth, the flaws, and the magic, because she knows that bold doesn't mean reckless, it means unapologetic. It means she'd rather be real than rehearsed. It means she's willing to stand out rather than fit in. It means she no longer fears failure because she's already conquered something much scarier. Being herself in a world that told her not to be. Let me tell you something. The world doesn't need another quiet woman hiding her brilliance. It doesn't need another woman shrinking to make others comfortable. It needs women who are loud in their truth, loud in their power, loud in their presence. Women who don't wait for a seat at the table because they build their own. Women who don't apologize for being too bold, too brave, too real, because they know that too much is exactly what makes change happen. So to every woman listening right now, keep showing up. Keep standing tall. Keep choosing you, even when it's hard, even when it's lonely. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be remembered. You're not here to follow. You're here to lead. You're not here to beg for space. You are the force that makes the space. Be unapologetically her, because that version of you, that's the one the world's been waiting on. And if they can't handle her, let them watch.